Discussion. My name is Alvin Soifer, and I'll be leading the discussion that night. And I don't remember what the title is, but it's something like "Should we keep deathbed promises?" I think is the topic that we're going to be working on that night. But tonight, it gives me great pleasure to introduce Roger Petry, who's going to give a talk with another title I probably don't remember, which is "The Ethics of Bitcoin Developing Money as a Form of Social Contract." All right, so take it away, Roger.
All right, so I should say first off that I realize that focusing on a topic like Bitcoin is going to attract people who probably know more about it, quite a bit more about it than I do, especially the technical details. And so I'm a bit leery about that. And having put social contract in the title, I knew I would attract further people with incredible expertise, more so than I have in that area as well. So I apologize if I'm maybe not quite at the depth of certain things, but hopefully it's a good topic to discuss. So I want to begin by outlining my own intellectual journey in relation to the topic of a political role for alternative currencies. In 1992, as a student in philosophy, politics, and economics in Oxford, I'd been following the development of free trade agreements. The Canada-United States Free Trade Agreement, over which the 1988 federal election had been fought, was now being built upon by the negotiation of the North American Free Trade Agreement, NAFTA, which was signed in December of that year. It had taken me those 4 years to recognize that free trade agreements were designed to bind state authorities by market players, even where historically there was a legitimate public interest in state intervention that would be viewed as protectionist. This intervention could include interventions for economic development, especially in poor communities, whether that's developing domestic economies through creating state enterprises or cultivating domestic industries and tariffs, or simply fulfilling constitutional responsibilities. For example, requiring environmental, social, or health legislation, even if it disadvantaged foreign enterprises and had a seemingly protectionist effect. Further, these agreements, even if they still allowed for state intervention, created new competitive dynamics, driving the often cited race to the bottom, namely to the lowest work and environmental standards and corporate and investor taxation rates. This was leading, it seemed to me, to a return to a kind of economic state of nature, where market players would be driven to compete within these lower standards, even where one had an economic enterprise with a broader sense of corporate social responsibility. The question arose, in the absence of a citizen's ability to mobilize through democratic states to advance various ethical obligations, tied, for example, to a robust notion of autonomy, was there some way these responsibilities might be expressed in a non-state and a non-territorial way within a global marketplace? Valuing state institutions, I was not adverse to such a strategy indirectly restoring state powers and citizen powers expressible through state institutions. Unlike states, whose definition minimally includes an ability to exercise legislative authority over a people residing within a given geographic territory, markets, unlike earlier barter systems, are determined by participants exchanging some form of currency acting as a medium of exchange. Not only does it allow for the selling and purchase of goods and services, economists also point out its role as a way of measuring value, an asset or store of value, and a means for borrowing and lending, as it allows for agreements of deferred payments into the future. As shared use of money among market participants is a possibility condition for a modern market, I wondered whether terms of use associated with the currency itself could be the basis for a new kind of social contract governing a global market and a way of raising versus lowering market standards, a race to the top versus a race to the bottom. One key problem, however, presents itself. Wherever one currency exchanges for another, Canadian dollars for Chilean pesos, this effectively expands the effective market. It allows the ability to compare prices in multiple jurisdictions through the respective conversion rates, and with free trade, it makes exchanges between these regions. We end up effectively with a single global market made up of many currencies facing the same competitive pressures. Further, even if one sought to restrict exchanges between currencies in some manner, the use of paper fiat currency, especially in large denominations, as any drug cartel will tell you, allows for anonymous exchanges between currencies, while the explosion of currency speculation over the last 2 decades has required most states to freely float their currencies. Now you might say, If we assume market transactions are contracts freely entered into, it is conceptually possible that one might simply refuse to use a given currency, perhaps based on its political and symbolic implications. I'm reminded of Jesus' much discussed comment that one ought to render unto Caesar what is Caesar's, when asked whether people ought to pay taxes to Rome. This could be a comment on people's having chosen to participate in the Roman economy through using Roman coinage, with its idolatrous images to boot. Jesus might be suggesting that an individual could make a choice, though difficult, not to use Roman coinage at all, though I would not personally want to face down a Roman soldier demanding Rome's tribute paid in Roman denarii. It is conceptually possible, however, that a community of currency users could choose not to exchange a given currency for another, even though they might reside alongside other users of a different currency in the same territory. This might seem peculiar to us, as modern states employing fiat currencies typically stipulate a single currency, normally its own, be used as legal tender in the payment of taxes and debts.